Break the wheel. Make it stop.
Hello again, gentle viewers, and welcome back to another episode of The Broken Wheel. I've been wanting to make videos about individual characters for a while, but didn't want to have major spoilers with the main characters. So I decided to focus on some minor characters that won't give away too much. The first one will be a personal favorite of mine, Tam al'Thor. Medium spoiler warning, for I will cover his entire life story in the book series, though I'll try to keep it focused solely on him as much as possible. But with all that said, let our journey begin again. Tam al'Thor's full name is Tamlin al'Thor, though I can't remember anyone ever calling him that. Robert Jordan describes Tam as being solid in virtually every conceivable way. He has a thick chest and a lined face. When he is first introduced, his hair is mostly gray with specks of black. Tam is well respected by the people of the village of Emmonsfield, as well as being on the village council. His skill with a quarterstaff and bow is known throughout all the villages of the Two Rivers, which is why his advice is sought when the external crisis of the false dragon Logain becomes known. Tam al'Thor was born in the year 940 NE, making him about 48 years old at the start of the book series. We are told nothing about his life as a child or family, but there are some implications in his family name, al'Thor. We learn in the second book, The Great Hunt of the Horn, that Al is a noble honorific similar to the German von or the French Day. Lan also has this honorific, with his full name being Al-Lan Mandragoran. From this, we can guess that Tam is descended from one of the noble families of the fallen kingdom of Manetheren. For reasons unknown, Tam al'Thor left the Two Rivers in the year 956 NE when he was 16. It's most likely that he was seeking adventure as a warrior, for his travels would eventually bring him to the kingdom and city of Ilion to the far south. There he would join the Ilion army and quickly become a member of its elite unit, the Ilioner Companions. This formation is unique among similar elite units in other kingdoms in that it allows foreigners into its ranks. As well as being formidable shock troops, the Companions are also tasked with protecting the king of Ilion. In 962 NE, Tam would meet the daughter of an Andorran merchant, Kari. The two quickly fell in love and were married despite the objections of Kari's parents, who did not approve of her marrying a soldier. They ended up disowning Kari not long after. Not much else is known about Kari other than she is described as having red hair and gray eyes. The two had planned to have a large family, but that was sadly not to happen. Their first child, a daughter, died of a fever as an infant. Their second child, a boy, was stillborn. After that, Kari could no longer bear children. Tam would serve with distinction with the Companions in the two wars with Ilion's longtime rival kingdom of Tyr and the White Cloak War. The White Cloak War is where Tam al'Thor would join the Companions after distinguishing himself by helping to prevent the Ilioner army from being routed after the king of Ilion was captured at the Battle of Soromain. By the time of the Aiel War in 976 NE, Tam had attained the rank of second captain of the Companions, making him the unit's second in command. During this time period, he would also achieve the title of Blade Master by defeating one in single combat. Tam never speaks about this duel to the death, only to say that it needed to be done. This is also when he would receive the power-wrought heron-marked sword that he would later give to his son Rand. We know nothing about how Tam received this priceless weapon, but Robert Jordan did imply once that it was a gift from the king of Ilion. The Aiel War would be Tam's last and most bloody campaign as a soldier. The Aiel would eventually return to their own lands after 3 years of war in 978 NE. In the aftermath of the final battle, Tam was drawn to a strange sound on the slopes of Dragonmount. To his amazement, he found a dead Aiel woman that had just given birth to a baby boy. With nobody around to care for the newborn, the freezing cold, and his wife still wanting to have children, Tam wrapped the infant in his cloak and adopted the child. Tam and Kari would decide to name him Rand al'Thor. Tam and his family would return to Emmonsfield that same year to settle down. They would choose a farmstead a distance west from the village. This area had fertile land, but being more remote was also more susceptible to threats from wildlife. The farm would mostly be used to raise sheep, but would also have a small apple orchard that Tam would use to make cider and apple brandy. Sadly, Kari would succumb to illness 5 years later. Tam chose not to remarry despite the village's women's circle best efforts to convince him otherwise. He instead put all his energies into raising his son. Tam would teach Rand how to shoot a bow and the meditative technique known as the flame and the void, which Rand would use throughout his life. The two of them would live peacefully and happily on their small farm for the next 15 years. In 998 NE, the night before Emondfield's annual spring festival of Beltane, Tam's quiet life would come to an end when his home was attacked by a group of Trollocs. He would once again take up his sword that he had kept locked away for almost 20 years. Rand was stunned to see the magnificent blade his father owned, and even more so by Tam's skill with it. Tam was able to kill 2 of the creatures, but was many years out of practice. A third managed to wound him before being killed by Rand. Though a minor injury, the Shadow Spawn's blade was tainted by the Dark One's power, and Tam soon collapsed with fever. Rand would spend all night dragging his father to the village in hopes the village wisdom would know how to help him. The trek would be slow going, with Rand staying off the roads to avoid more Trollocs and needing to stop to check on Tam. In a moment of delirium brought on by his fever, Tam would inadvertently tell his son how he was found as a baby. By early morning, Rand brought Tam into the main village to find that it had also been attacked by Trollocs. When the young man brought his father to the wisdom Nynaeve, she found him near death and beyond her ability to save. Fortunately, the Aes Sedai Moraine had come to the village the night before, and Rand pleaded with her to use her powers to heal his father. Moraine would agree, but only if Rand agreed to leave the Two Rivers with her. Having no other choice, Rand accepted the deal, and Moraine would heal Tam's wound so that his life was no longer in danger. Though extremely weak, Tam would regain consciousness long enough to say goodbye to his son. They would not see each other again for several years. So this is where we last see Tam in the TV series. Spoiler warnings going forward, so if you don't want any, this is where you should stop the video. After regaining his strength, Tam would set out for the White Tower along with Mat's father, Ebel Cawthon. When they arrived, they demanded to know what had happened not only to their sons, but also to the other 3 young people from Emond's Field. The tower claimed to have no knowledge of their whereabouts, which was most likely true at that time. The 2 men made the long trip home and would see the Two Rivers suffer its worst crisis yet. The Dark One's forces would attempt to conquer the entire Two Rivers, led by the twisted dark friend Padan Fain. The Children of the Light would also occupy the Two Rivers under the pretense of saving its people from Trollocs. While the White Cloaks were not interested in eating people like the Trollocs, they were no less oppressive in their treatment and attempted to bring the Two Rivers under their control. Vastly underestimating the people of the Two Rivers' stubbornness, the people rebuked the White Cloaks' attempt at control, with Tam having to go into hiding after resisting arrest. After hearing about the situation in the Two Rivers, Perrin Aebara would return to Emond's Field to see how he could help. Being ta'veren, the people quickly rallied to Perrin, with Tam becoming the young man's primary military commander. Tam would soon learn that his son was the Dragon Reborn, and the following morning his hair had turned completely gray. Tam would also teach the once pacifist Aram how to use a sword after abandoning the Way of the Leaf. Together, Tam and Perrin would raise a force of 3,000 to 4,000 Two Rivers folk into a formidable unit of archers. Tam would oversee their training and be appointed as Perrin's first captain, a role he was well suited for with his past experience in the Companions. The two of them would force the Trollocs and the Children of the Light out of their home, and later in the conflict with the rogue Aiel clan, the Shadow. The former Emond's Field wisdom Nynaeve eventually finds Tam and asks him to come with her to help Rand. Along with the Aes Sedai Cadsuan, the 2 women would tell him how detached and short-tempered his son had become. Concerned with this darkening temperament, Cadsuane would coach Tam on what to say to Rand when the time came. Desperately worried about his son, Tam agreed to follow Cadsuan's advice. When Tam met his son after years of separation, the old man was surprised at the young man that he met. Rand seemed older and worn out by heavy burdens than his usual years would reflect. His once bright, youthful face was replaced by a stern, unmovable mask of stone. When Tam mentions that it was Cadsuane that brought them together and told him what to say, Rand would lash out in anger. He would attempt to kill Tam with the One Power, but would stop himself at the last second, instead destroying the building they were in. Tam would accuse Cadsuane of doing something terrible to his son to get that kind of reaction. The Aes Sedai would deny doing anything to the Dragon Reborn and attempt to intimidate Rand's father by trapping him with the One Power. Tam would not be shaken by this display of power, and he would criticize Cadsuane's heavy-handed tactics. This argument would reach the old Aes Sedai, for she not only releases Tam, but admits that she has been wrong in how she has treated Rand. Not a small feat to get an Aes Sedai to admit being wrong. Father and son would eventually reunite in the city of Tyr, where they would embrace for the first time in years. Tam would hold his son for some time as Rand would release the tears he had been holding back for so long. Rand apologizes to Tam, with Tam instantly forgiving the young man. When Trollocs take control of the kingdom of Andor, Tam becomes one of the Queen's senior officers and leads the Two Rivers army of archers. When Perrin must leave to aid the Dragon Reborn, he makes Tam al'Thor Lord of the Two Rivers and commander of his army. Before setting off to confront the Dark One itself for the last battle, Rand meets with Tam for what could be the last time. Rand apologizes for losing the sword Tam gave him and offers Tam the sword of Arthur Hawkwing, Justice, as a replacement. The two have a practiced duel where Tam is able to get a better measure of the man his son has become. Tam gives Rand one last lesson on the use of the flame and the void so that his son can fully concentrate when the time comes. The two stop, and Tam is deeply saddened by the tremendous burden Rand has to carry and the effects it's had on him. Tam al'Thor survives Tarmangaddon, but it's unclear if he knows the final fate of his son. We know that he becomes the paternal grandfather of Rand's children. In the TV series, Tam is played by Michael McElhatton. I hope I said that right. So I hope you've enjoyed this video and learning more about this character. As always, if you like this content, consider leaving a like or a comment below. Thanks for watching, and as always, may the light protect you.